Good morning, Facebook Live. I am Verena. For those of you who haven't met me yet, nice to meet you. I announced the end of my AI career last week to step into something that I'm truly passionate about, to build a business that is really connected to my heart and my purpose and what I feel called to do right now. And I promised that I would do a 21-day live challenge. So that means I'm coming here live every day for the next 3 weeks. And I will be talking about the ups and downs, the things I'm going through as I go through this transition, especially now at the very beginning. And today I mainly want to share a bit about my story, where this is all coming from, what led up to this point. So last week I announced that I would leave AI behind, and I have been working in AI for over 9 years. So I started way back before all this hype happened. And the work that I'm now dedicating myself to is connecting women to their truth, their power, their soul timing. So enabling them to build a life from the inside out that they really feel fulfilled by and passionate about. But honestly, I mean, this is what I've got right now. But what I'm going to do today is actually work on my messaging, become more clear on what I'm helping women transform into. So it might change. It might be different tomorrow. But this is what it is right now. And I've just finished a course, 4-week course, Flow Over Force, where we started this transition, right? Where we learned, how do I actually reconnect to this truth? How can I connect to my soul? How can I feel this desire, this thing that I'm actually called to do? Because oftentimes this is not something we feel, this is not something we've learned, but quite the opposite, right? We take things in from the outside, from society, maybe family, friends, their expectations, and then we live by that. And we don't really even know what we want. We are completely disconnected from this inner voice and our true desire. And then we often tend to try to force and push to get results, right? And we always think we need to control and do more. And then at some point, it just gets exhausting. So this course was about how to live from flow, how to soften control, and to build trust, and then build a life from the inside out. But anyway, like I said, I mainly want to share about my story and how this all started. So like I said, I was working in AI for over 9 years. I originally studied, well, I was kind of lost. Like, after finishing high school, I didn't really know what to do. I always had liked learning languages, but didn't really want to study languages because I didn't really see career paths for that. So what I chose to do was to study economics with Chinese. And back at the time, Chinese was something that I wanted to learn and had an interest in. And economics felt like the safeguard, right? Basically something where you don't have to decide, you don't have to commit to anything, yet it keeps you a lot of doors open. You can still kind of make your decision on what to do with it later. And then I didn't really enjoy economics. I felt it was kind of arbitrary, right? Because whenever you would choose a certain assumption in a certain model, you would arrive at a certain result. But then if you change the assumption, you arrive at a different result. And it felt really arbitrary because it's not something you could test. At the same time, I mean, part of the economics studies was a lot of statistics. And while I thought that statistics was a little bit hard in the beginning, I kind of warmed up with it. And then I liked it more because at least with the statistics, I was able to test assumptions, and they didn't seem that arbitrary in economics. So I decided to also do a master's in statistics. I focused during my bachelor already in statistics, and then because I was good at math, but didn't really want to study it just then. So then I thought, okay, statistics is like a good compromise. I did my master's in that, and then during that statistics studies, I came across machine learning, data science. So basically the things that we now call AI, or the things that advanced into what we now call AI. And I like that much more than, general statistics, because it was a lot more trial and error. It was a lot less based on assumptions, but basically you had your data, you tried a model, and you could always test if the model worked. So I found this much more interesting and decided I wanted to pursue a career in AI, and also with statistics, the classic career paths was like working in banks, working in insurance, and I did an internship, or even 2 internships in a bank, but totally wasn't my vibe, so didn't want to go into that direction. So AI was like a good compromise, because also the tech world is a bit, less conservative and less stiff compared to bank and insurance. Yeah, and then back then, I moved to Berlin for my master's, and while now so many companies are hiring AI stuff here, back at the time, there was no company. Not even Zalando was hiring any kind of data scientist in Berlin, but actually only in Ireland at the time, in Dublin. So the only options I really had was to apply for consulting. So Deloitte was looking for data science consultants, and a few other consultancies. And since I wanted to stay in Berlin, I applied there and started my career in consulting. And then, the problem then was that, in consulting, you work a lot with German corporates, and back then they were definitely not really AI ready. They probably not even are now, but back then it was a lot more niche topic, and also it was more called data science and machine learning, but even that. So then I was like, okay, let's see, if I work in a company, this is going to be easier. And I moved to Oetker Digital for some time, but then also the AI readiness or data science machine learning readiness wasn't super high at the time. So it was like, okay, let's look into companies, that already have data, that are more data natives, let's say, right? Because Oetker, of course, is a very traditional company, so they had to adopt this new technology. It's not something that they grew up with, like, for example, Amazon or Zalando, where data is really built at the core of their business model already. So I moved to Mobile.de, which was part of eBay at the time, and there they had data. Worked as a data scientist there, and eventually moved to Amazon, because I was always very passionate about natural language processing. I had a few projects at Deloitte already that were about natural language processing, and I always enjoyed that part most, because in the end, you as the human know the data. You can interpret the data the best, which is not always the case if you work with other kinds of data. Yeah, and then spent 4 years at Amazon, a research scientist at Amazon Alexa. Learned a lot about natural language processing, generative AI, everything that everyone talks about right now. And it was a cool time, but also realized that corporate is not for me, at least not long term. I was tired of, return to office, being tied to 28 days of vacation, someone else dictating your schedule, fighting for promotions. That seemed a bit arbitrary at times. And all this stuff. So I decided to leave corporate and became self-employed in 2023 and worked still in AI as a freelancer, still on natural language processing mainly, which was great. A lot more freedom, a lot more control over your own life, how you work, where you work, who you work with, also financially very good. You no longer have to fight about promotions. You just negotiate your rate, which is a lot easier. Yeah, so that was basically my AI career in a nutshell. Now, what happened and how did I arrive at this point? There was a point in 2021, I think. Yeah, end of 2021, where I was really exhausted and really drained. So, I mean, it was in the middle of COVID, but then also this whole corporate life thing where I was actually trying to push and force to a certain degree, right? I was ambitious. I wanted to, get the promotion, and I did. But it also came at a cost, right? Where I realized, okay, I can't keep continuing like this, and it's not worth it, because I was really I was going beyond my limits, in the sense that I was exhausting myself continuously. But also there was this just mental attitude of trying to push and force, where you're trying to make things happen and you try too hard, and it just takes a lot of mental energy. And then at some point, and it also didn't really bring the results that I was hoping for. I mean, I did get the promotion, but and this was also after it, but I could just feel that this is not the way I can and want to live. And also it didn't really, like, the things I was trying to make happen didn't really happen. So then I let go of that, and I was like, I took a step back. I was like, okay, my number one priority from now on is my well-being, and what do I even need to be well? Like, I had no idea. I mean, I could feel I was unhappy. I could feel I felt empty. I felt drained. I was irritated, my partner certainly didn't have an easy time back then. But it was really hard for me to say what I needed, except, okay, maybe work less and, have more time off. Okay, but then this is also not something you can instantly make happen. So I was starting to think about, what is it that I can do on a daily basis, and how can I change my daily routine in a way that supports my well-being. And I started reading books, listening to podcasts about, what it even means to be happy, what is fulfillment, what makes humans happy. And I had a passion for yoga and Ayurveda when I was studying. And when I was studying, I had a lot of time, so spent a lot of time reading about yoga and Ayurveda, cooked Ayurveda food and all this stuff. But then when I started working, I dropped all that because I didn't have time, or I felt so overwhelmed that I dropped all that. And then I also started reconnecting with these passions. So started doing yoga again, reconnected to this philosophy, and just started by making little shifts, like not doing any overtime anymore, going for a walk every day after lunch, started journaling, started a little bit of meditation and breath work exercises in the morning, And that already really improved my well-being. And from there, it really, I mean, I basically couldn't stop. I just kept, researching and then trying things out on myself. So what is making me happy? What is making me feel better? And then eventually I signed up for a sound bath facilitator training because I went to a yoga day retreat where they had crystal bowls. Maybe you've seen these. And they did a sound bath with crystal bowls, and I just loved it. I felt like on cloud 9, cloud 7. I don't know. I felt like, flying above the clouds afterwards. It was such a shift in how I felt that I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to learn this. I want to have these bowls. And this was like the start. I did the sound bath facilitator training. I bought some bowls. I started giving sound baths. And then I did a vinyasa yoga teacher training, which also was interesting because I still remember we had these weekends of training, which was Friday afternoon and then Saturday, Sunday. And it started at 9 and ended at 6. And at first I was thinking, oh, should I really do this? Maybe it's exhausting to do that when I have to work the whole week. But I felt so much better on Mondays after these training weekends than I did on the normal weekends. And I still remember sitting there in one of these training weekends, and it was really, I enjoyed it. It was so great to learn about yogic philosophy and anatomy and just practicing yoga and learning about the postures. And I remember, wow, this is how life could feel too, right? Because at that point I was kind of so used to the exhaustion and the depletion and also maybe being in resistance against what you do, that I kind of forgot that there is another state that you can access. And this then led me to, resigning from my corporate job. And this was nice because it gave me a lot more space to explore yoga and everything else even deeper. I also did a Kundalini yoga teacher training, and Kundalini yoga is something that I still practice every day. It really helps me to keep my energy up, to stay connected to myself. So Kundalini yoga is maybe something that is less known. It's so usually when we hear yoga, you think of the poses, right? And there are poses in Kundalini yoga too, but Kundalini yoga is more about breath and repetitive movement and working with the energy. So bringing the energy from the base of your spine, from the root chakra up to your crown chakra. So I did a teacher training there. It was an absolute amazing experience with Panch Nishan. Can only recommend. And yeah, I just had more time to explore things, stayed in yoga ashrams for some time, and then also started more going into the coaching world. So in 2023, I think that was the first time, or was it 24? Anyway, we went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within in Cologne. And yeah, it was a great event, and I could just feel how, when you are in these environments, your outlook on life changes. What you think is possible for you just changes. So then, but I also realized that, I went to yoga retreats and all these things. I also realized that I actually need to immerse myself in these kind of environments constantly, not just based on a retreat or based on an event, like not these one-off things, because then the energy and everything, is boosted for a couple of days, but then you come back and you fall back into your old patterns. So I was then starting also to look into online coaching containers that would support me basically throughout the year. So where I have constant, where I have a constant recalibration of my system, really, not like beliefs and all this. And I started to put together my own toolbox. And also started then, because I left corporate and I had time also to explore, okay, what could I do, right? And how could I share what I've learned? And I started the Women in Tech newsletter, where I wrote about the difficulties or challenges I encountered as a woman in tech, also the things I've learned during my career in Amazon, and because I have a very good Women in Tech program where you talk about how do you navigate career in a corporate, how do you communicate, like all these soft skills that nobody talks about. And women often think promotions just happen based on, your performance, which is part of it, but it's not the only thing. And this is something I wasn't aware of in my very beginning, and I learned that many other women aren't either. So I started with that, also developed a Women in Tech coaching program, and coached a couple of women in tech with this program. I also had a course on confidence, and then had a couple of one-on-one clients. So I started coaching already then, but more in this context of tech, of women in tech. And then at some point during my freelance time, I was like, gosh, I'm not really part of an organization anymore, and I honestly don't really want to be. And it doesn't really feel aligned for me anymore to coach women who are part of this organization, mainly on how to navigate the environment there. So then I was like, I want every woman to live this amazing freelance life, right? This is so much better. And it actually also did alleviate a lot of the challenges and pains that I had faced as a woman in tech, being part of these organizations. Like, the bro culture, all this hassle about promotions, and just how this system works in general. So I thought, okay, let me just guide women to start their own freelance career. And also I always like doing mindset work, and a huge part of becoming freelance and self-employed, honestly, for me, was just mindset. It's just about getting over this fear of uncertainty, not knowing, where your money is coming from necessarily for some time, and just getting out of this comfort zone and learning to navigate uncertainty, which is honestly really the biggest part, because how to set up your freelance business is something you can just Google. Like, this is not hard to do. The hard part is really just navigating your emotions around it. So then I did that, and also, whether it was Women in Tech coaching for women still in corporate environments, or whether it was this Code to Freedom where I coached women on how to become freelance, a main part of my work was always embodiment. And embodiment means that you do not just work with mindset and everything, what you think, but you work with your body, because eventually you can only change your behavior if you feel different about something. Right? You need to feel different in your body. You need to feel that this new belief is true for you. You need to be positive that you can make freelance work in order for you to do it. And it doesn't mean that you have to have this belief all the time, 100%. There is fluctuations, and that's normal, but at least you get yourself to a point where you mostly feel that, and where you can navigate these other parts. And it's a lot for me when I started working with my body, and not just with my head. And in tech we're in our head all the time, but then incorporating the body, that is really what shifted how fast I was able to change things and how I could change my own beliefs. So embodiment has always been a big part of my work. And then the beginning of this year, end of last year, last year was the year of the snake, and I made a video about that too if you're curious to learn more. So there was a lot of shedding. There was a lot of shedding for me, and I had actually only learned this towards the end of the year. Was really curious, or it was really so stunning that this coincided for me. And I mean, of course, one part of the shedding was like, okay, I'm going to leave AI behind. It's no longer feeling true. I feel called to do something else. And now is finally the time to go all in on this new thing. But also, what I deeply felt is I didn't want to make it connected to any of these logical and easily digestible outcomes, like empowering women in tech or being a freelancer, right? This is still things that you can very easily understand, and it's like a very logical and an way of putting things still. And now I'm shifting also with my messaging more into this feminine embodiment, where you don't necessarily have, I'm not tying it to one specific super tangible outcome anymore. Yes, it's about a life, it's about living a life that feels true for you. It's about building a life that you truly love, but it's no longer this career aspect only. Yeah, and embodiment is still a big part of my work, because I think it just speeds up the process so much from my experience when we work with the body and not just with the head. So the head and recoding your beliefs on a mindset level is very important, but then you need to integrate it into the body. You need to be able to feel that this belief is actually true for you. Otherwise, you're just looping and you're just doing surface level stuff that doesn't necessarily get you that far. Yeah. So this is, in short, how I've come to this point. Like I said, today is the day for me is going to be working on my messaging, so I can also explain more and get more clarity on what it is I'm going to, what transformation I'm going to offer. I already have a program in mind. It's going to be the Self-Led Woman from Intuition to Reality. So this is exactly this, right, where we build a life that is guided from our inner knowing, and it's going to work in different themes. So I have that already, but yeah, there is going to be more, and I'm going to refine also a little bit more what my message is. But this is the work of today, or at least, I mean, I'm starting this today to go deeper into this messaging, and I can share an update tomorrow. So I would say this concludes day 1 of my 21-day life challenge. I will be back tomorrow, probably with some updates in terms of messaging, and also how important it is to stay connected to your vision and how I do that. And this is also, again, not just the tangible work, not just this, what do I do and where do I produce outcome, but also a lot is really internal work, especially in this very beginning phase. And also, I mean, leading myself up to here, a lot of it was internal work, even though the actions that I took, the things that I did, like the Women in Tech newsletter, the coaching programs and all this, they were also crucial parts that led me to where I'm now. But I'm going to share more about that tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you here tomorrow again. Have a good day.